We are going to start off on our first part of the meeting, which is the prepared speeches. Our first speaker this evening is going to be Julia Shah, and this is the Leadership Development Through Gardening. Our first speaker is Julia. Julia is a gardening enthusiast. She was fascinated by the amount of vegetables that a garden can produce when her family moved into their first house. When she bought her own house in 1997, the 1.25 acre yard became a 15 by 25 foot garden. That's a lot. She's been gardening ever since. Today, she will be sharing the challenges, the successes, and how gardening has made her a better leader in business. Julia is presenting from her project from the Leadership Development Pathway, where the objective is to inspire your audience. I present to you Julia Shah, Leadership Through Development Through Gardening. Leadership Development Through Gardening, Julia Shah.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, leadership through gardening. I was compelled to give this talk through a conversation with ChatGPT recently. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I confided to ChatGPT, and he gave me an answer which deeply inspired me to do this speech. I'll talk more about that later. First, let's dig right into gardening. When my family moved here, we lived in a tiny apartment with no balcony. We couldn't possibly have even a pot of anything in our small one-bedroom apartment. When we finally bought our home 10 years later, we had a little plot. And my mom was so excited, she got a hold of some heritage seeds from our homeland in Taiwan. And I remember her working late into the night out there in the garden, watering, fighting the mosquitoes, coming back to the house with mosquito bites all over her back. And she produced little results the first year. But then, year after year, the amount of her produce grew and grew. And I really appreciated all the hard work that she put into growing these vegetables. When I finally was able to buy my own home, I couldn't wait to start gardening. A lot of the plants I started came from my mom. But then later on, I started getting a hold of these catalogs. And I would flip through the pages, and I would go through the different variety of vegetables, flowers, and I would dream of having these variety of vegetables and flowers in my garden. Every year, my garden is different. Some is by design, some is just how nature would provide. The challenges I often face are the challenges that every gardener faces: weather, critters, the type of soil that you have, and also the amount of work that you can put into the gardening. I often also have anxiety right about April, springtime. April, May. I'm thinking about, I gotta get out there, start cleaning out the leftover from previous fall. I gotta get an early start to make sure that the vegetables, the plants would have plenty of time to grow. Anxiety. And then I start comparing myself to the neighbors because I see them out there working on their garden. And I'm thinking, I'm behind. They're already getting their garden going. A lot of comparing yourself to other people. Just like in business, just like in our careers, we're often comparing ourselves to other people. Throughout these years, I have learned to subside that anxiety. It still comes, but now I embrace acceptance. So that's turning anxiety into acceptance as a lesson that my garden has taught me. I also learned to be patient. I often would find hard way to do things. One of the tools that I used was, of course, the gardening hose. From the spigot of my house to my garden was about 50 feet. My garden was not right next to my house like some lucky people's garden. They can just water, spigot, walk a few steps, water the garden. That just didn't happen with a yard that's over an acre. Over the years, I thought, well, wouldn't I get a better workout if I carry 2 buckets of water out to the garden? 2 5-gallon buckets of water. So in the last few years, that's how I water my plants. I think one of the disadvantages of that is my plants didn't get enough deep watering, but I did my best. And I've built a strong connection with these plants because I'm personally watering them, delivering the water to them the old-fashioned way. This is, again, a strategy that we would, or a practice that we could use in business, serving our customers, serving our coworkers, committed to serving them and not be afraid of our hard work. Celebrate the result. We often think we don't have what it takes. The conversation I had with ChatGPT, as I mentioned, was I had imposter syndrome. I confided to ChatGPT, look, the reality is I show up, go to work in the warehouse every day. I do not feel like I'm a leader. I don't feel like I have what it takes to coach other people or to help anybody transform. ChatGPT told me, you are not the imposter. You are a work in progress. You are not doing what you are thinking about doing every day just yet, but you have what it takes. And his little pep talk brought me to tears. And then when I was watering my garden at night under the full moon, just last night and the night before last night, the moonlight helped me light up my garden for me to see. Just came out of the cloud, and it's like nature saying, let me help you out here. And again, I was brought to tears. I may not be a successful coach or leader or business person just yet, but I know I have what it takes. With the years of practice as a committed gardener, the beauty that my plants have presented is the proof that I have done it. And as a gardener, I have enough confidence to tell my future clients, I can help you. Back to you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Oh, Julia.
All right.
And it will be relayed by Wendy.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Okay, fellow Toastmasters and Julia. Let's go down into the odyssey of your speech. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to talk about what I thought went extremely well, and then I will provide a few suggestions for you to consider should you give this speech again. First and foremost, as with all your speeches, it was engaging. You know, you held our attention and you had an interesting subject. And something that many people could relate to, not anything that's too far off, you know, in one direction or another, too technical, too specific to anything that would need a lot of explanation. Most of us have probably gardened or know someone who has gardened. You had a point. You supported your argument, and because it was essentially a story. You went through the phases of a story pretty well, I thought. You had good background. You know, we learned a little bit about your mother and gardening. We learned about you getting a house. We learned about you starting to garden. And then we also went into the next stage of that, which is, you know, character development. We learned a lot about you. We didn't learn all about you at one point in a certain place. We sort of took on little factoids all through your speech to create a vision of what you are in our heads. And since you're here in front of us, you didn't have to tell us how you looked, so that was easy. You also had conflict. You know, you said I have imposter syndrome, and that's a problem for me, right? And then you had resolution. You talked to ChatGPT, and you did some soul searching, and you sort of solved your problem. So I thought all of that was really excellent. Even a little humor, since with your garden, I'm going to dig right in. I caught that. I thought that was really good. Okay, so what could you do that might add something? I think the structure to me is the area that I might focus on just a little bit more. I think I would have started out with a statement, something kind of bold that would catch people's attention. It's like, I bet you didn't know it, but I have imposter syndrome. I think so, but you know what? ChatGPT doesn't think so. Let me tell you about it. So a strong start to leading into something, and then you would talk a little bit. Now you had some specific types of issues that you defined for yourself that you talked about in your challenges. You talked about the physical challenges like the soil and other things, comparing yourself to others, and the fact that you thought that you weren't a leader. I think I might have said what those were. I have challenges. You know, some of them are maybe, you know, you could tell what those are and then go back one by one and sort of go into them a little bit deeper. But I thought, you know, all in all, I thought this was very interesting. The most important thing is it kept my interest, and I wanted to know what happened, and I cared what happened. So I think you did a really terrific job. Thank you.